Members, we will now ask Mr. Shannon with the Space Commission. You're up.
Morning.
Good morning. So Senator Hagenbu will introduce you because Senator Middleton, again, is not available today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Senator Hagenbu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's been enjoyable to get a chance to do these today because so many great people in your background as well. It's a pleasure to introduce Mr. John Shannon on behalf of Senator Middleton, who wished he could be here this morning to introduce you. John Shannon of Houston Service. John serves as the Vice President of Exploration Systems at Boeing Company, overseeing all facets of human spaceflight. Prior to joining Boeing, he spent 26 years at NASA's Johnson Space Center, where he held leadership roles as a flight director and space shuttle program manager. He has been widely recognized for his leadership, earning numerous NASA and national honors. Mr. Shannon sits on the board of the Coalition of Deep Space Exploration and the American Astronautics Society, and holds memberships with the American Institute of Aeronautics and the Astronautics and Manned Space Operations Association. He earned a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering from Texas A&M University and completed the program for management at Harvard Business School. And it's a relatively short bio. Just the fact of your background at NASA and a number of other areas, Boeing, I'm sure there's a lot more there to go into, but I'll keep it brief this morning. But a great background. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Senator, for the kind introduction. And I just wanted to thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for the opportunity to represent really the Texas Space Commission, a new board that was formed from House Bill 3447 out of the 88th legislature. Greatly appreciate the opportunity to represent them. I did grow up in Pearland. I raised my children in Friendswood, went to Texas A&M as aerospace engineering student, and then spent 26 years at the Johnson Space Center, like the Senator said. It has been a tremendous opportunity to see the changes in Texas in aerospace. You know, we were talking about it as a board the other day that the two landers that just landed on the moon this year were both developed and built in the state of Texas. They were launched by vehicles that were tested in McGregor. Texas has made incredible strides in the aerospace industry, and we're looking forward to the Texas Space Commission being able to help keep the innovation going and help not just businesses, but also government entities, nonprofits, and institutes of higher education expand the work that the space is doing. I'll just stop there and take any questions. Thank you.
Well, you can finish. You actually have a minute.
I'm good. No, I think
good.
that was good. With that introduction, you took a good part of my my intro, so I appreciate that.
Well, and again, your application, Mr. Shannon, is very laudable and filled with evidence of a lot of experience. There may be many folks who are not aware of the actual footprint that the Space Commission, everything that can be rolled into the Space Commission would oversee and key responsibilities. Would you, for those listening and the members here, would you describe the footprint of aerospace that we have in Texas?
That could take a while, right? Because it is.
Briefly.
It is okay. Briefly, we'll do it. What you've seen is a tremendous expansion from some large companies coming in, as for example, SpaceX down in Boca Chica and the enormous launch facilities that they've built there. Blue Origin out in West Texas in the Van Horn area, launching private individuals into suborbital space. But there are a tremendous number of small companies that have moved from places like California and Florida to Texas to continue to build on the space infrastructure that we have already existing here. The two companies I mentioned with the lunar landers, like Firefly Aerospace, you have Intuitive Machines down in Houston. They're doing really cutting-edge things that are impressive. A part that is not talked about quite as much is the Space Force and the amount of Space Force work that Texas does. And that was one of our first grants, was to build additional infrastructure out in El Paso to help bring more Space Force work into Texas. So a tremendous amount of activity going on in the state. I would say that Texas right now is significantly leading any other state in the country in aerospace work.
Okay. The aerospace economy and business of aerospace is primarily made up of private industry. Is that true? Or is that a good way to look at it? Rather than so much individual state efforts? Whereas most agencies that we bring before us, or boards or commissions, it's heavily state oversight, and it's a state agency or state commission. But this seems to be, the Space Commission seems to be more private enterprise. How do you see your role interacting with private when this is a governmental appointment and state agency or commission?
Sure. I think we're seeing a kind of a renaissance here, right, where aerospace and specifically crewed space flight was primarily within the government itself, right? And we're seeing a transition now across really all aspects of aerospace and space research from the government to commercial companies. And that is exactly what you want, right? You get more innovation, you get it faster. A lot of the research and development is done in our institutes of higher education, in government entities like NASA, down at Johnson Space Center. But we're seeing that start to move, and actually we're starting to see it surpass the government work. I will say that while there's a tremendous number of companies, and I had to bring in the numbers, we have received 281 grant applications already, and we just started. We really have been accepting and looking at grants for about the last 7 months, totaling $3.5 billion worth of funding just in the state alone. We have $150 million in the SEARF fund, right? So we have to be very, very careful about how we do that. But the point I wanted to make is that 128 of those were out of institutes of higher education. So while we do have a lot of private companies, some that are extremely well known and very in the news a lot, we also have a lot of interest in the UTEPs and the UT Dallases and the Texas A&Ms and University of Houston and all those with experimenters, principal investigators that just need a little bit of funding to be able to do something that will potentially create a lot of innovation, a lot of jobs and things like that. So it kind of goes back to your previous question of a lot of companies, very visible, but a whole lot of higher education institutes that would take advantage of this type of grant money as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Members, any questions? Vice Chair Hagenbu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two questions. Thanks, by the way, for your testimony and your being willing to do this and lend your great background to this. You mentioned the $150 million. What kind of criteria do you use to kind of decide where to invest?
That was our first discussion after we hired our executive director, is how in the world are we going to take all of these different grants, and they're very diverse things. Some people would ask for a skiff in El Paso, or so just some things that it's hard to compare. So we spent a lot of time as a board and with our executive director developing a scoring criteria, or a rubric, if you will, that looks at a number of things. The first it looks at is it technically possible, right? Is what this company would like the money for? Are we at a technology readiness level of 1 or 8, right? Where are we? Can it be done? The second was if it can be done, is it something that is going to bring jobs? Is it something that is going to significantly increase the ability of the state of Texas to expand upon that work, right? Is this just something that someone's interested in, or is it something that actually could be a game changer for the aerospace industry? The third we looked at was some of these grants ask for a lot of money. And we don't have that much money, but we can give some money to them. And the question was, if they're asking for $100 million, we end up giving them $5 million. Do they have the ability to go find that other $95 million somewhere, right? And so that would go into the discussion as well. What we found out as we talked to these companies is if we give them a small amount of money, they ask for 100, we give them 5. They can take that 5 and say, look, the Texas Space Commission believes in us. They think what we're doing is important. And that becomes a force multiplier, and they can go out and get venture capital, they can go get public equity money, they can get a lot of different money that's out there, private equity money. And then that really helps them do that fundraising and become more successful. So just, even if it's not a funding level that completely satisfies all their needs, it provides them with credibility to be able to go and do the work that they think is important, that we also think is important.
Thank you. Great answer.
You're welcome.
In that answer, you talked about one of the criteria being does it create jobs, that kind of thing. That's the other question. I'm curious. For commercial uses, I know that we these industries can make revenue, make a profit, like business, working for the government, that kind of thing, the Space Force. But in terms of commercial uses, I mean, the satellites make sense. I mean, that's a great commercial use. Just sort of brainstorming, what would you think in the next 10, 20 years other commercial uses, the major commercial uses would be on the sort of private sector side? Right.
I think one of the most important ones we have coming up in the near future that Texas will have a large part in is the International Space Station is hitting end of life. And all of the commercial crew activities, many of the commercial cargo activities that go to the space station, they would end if the ISS ended. All of the medical experiments that we've collected over the last 30 years, we would stop getting that information. We wouldn't have a place to fly our astronauts to. What NASA's approach is to save money is to say that in low Earth orbit, where the International Space Station is, it doesn't make sense for the government to fund that fully anymore. That could be a private activity that the government is like an anchor tenant to. So there are many companies in Texas that are developing the next space station. And that space station will continue the medical experiments that are done, many of them that come out of the medical center at Houston. It will fly Houston astronauts, but it won't just be a government facility. It will be a facility that private companies can go up and do their own research, take that IP that they will get from that and go apply it to the next thing that they want to go do. So you have the capability to commercially develop a facility that follows the ISS that I think will provide much more innovation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hagenbu. Okay, well, I guess we'll close with the fact, Price Waterhouse ranks Texas as #1 in attractiveness to the aerospace industry. That space, the aerospace space. Anyway, okay, thank you very much. And a worthy nominee for the Space Commission. Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
All right, members.